Hello, divine community, and welcome to this episode of Wet and Worthy Woman. I am so excited to be joined by a wonderfully untamed, unlocked, alive woman who's sitting before me, and I'm gonna introduce Zoe. I've stolen some beautiful words from your website, my love, so I'm just gonna read them out. So, feminine energy mentor, love doula, sacred union guide, and certified hypnotherapist, tantra yoga teacher, Zoe is a guiding light for women on a transformative journey towards embracing their unapologetically loving and impactful feminine expression. With a passion for helping individuals embody their true essence and love themselves fiercely, Zoe empowers women to feel irresistibly sexy from within, tapping into the captivating beauty of their innate magnetism to effortlessly attract all that they desire. She empowers women to embrace their personal power, reconnect with sensual vitality, and rediscover sanctity within themselves, life, and relationships. Holy fuck. Anything to add to that?
Like in a nutshell, it's helping the world return to love through the reclamation of the wild feminine, of the feminine in all her multidimensional magic, and then coming into unification with the masculine,
Mm.
throning the masculine, crowning the kings with our love.
Oh my God, I just felt everyone get slightly triggered. But
Let's
this
go
is,
there.
let's go there because, yeah, I've been doing a lot of this work with my clients recently. I'm currently running a program called Safe in Union where we feel like we rewrite our beliefs around men. And I know so many women that start the wild feminine work, just like I did at the beginning of my journey of reclaiming her. Forgiving the masculine has to happen for us to fully step into our throne as a woman. So I can't wait to get your wisdom on that. But firstly, I would love to invite you to share with us your story. Like, what brought you into deep service to love and union? And I'm so curious to get your description of what a love doula is, because right now it sounds like my dream job.
Just yeah, so I had a client, an angel, absolute soulmate angel client, and at the end of our one-on-one mentorship together, she just kept posting on her Instagram, Zoe's my love doula. She rebirthed me back into love and back into the heart space. I felt like I was held in a womb working with her. And I was like, oh, love doula. Actually, my fiance recently was like, babe, you're a Dharma doula. And yes, on one level, that's true. And we'll go into this a little bit more because it touches on the piece of hyper independent femininity versus interdependent femininity. And then I was like, wait, no, I'm a love doula. Like, and something that we can go into too is like, sometimes as women on this feminine path, we get so caught up in the mission that we forget the mission is love. So, the love doula is like the rebirthing back into the heart space, that feminine descent, right? Instead of like going outward, this penetrative energy that all of us at some point probably fall into while we're on this like entrepreneur rise of the feminine path. And it's reorienting, pivoting back to descent into the heart and then into the womb and then into the pussy, like we did in the little drop in you led me through at the beginning of our call. It is that descent. And it's very, it can be very subtle the ways that we get pulled out of that. So, yeah, that's the love doula ship. And what was the other question was, how did I get started on this path?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel that I've been like God's been priming me for it since I was out of the womb. I always felt a blueprint in me. Like as a little girl, I was like, I know I'm here to do something. I know I'm here for something bigger than myself. I could never really figure out the human experience, which led me to high school, lots of psychedelics, lots of rebellion, lots of sex and promiscuity. I was like very wild. And the pendulum swung really hard when I was 18. And I was in my first long-term relationship with a man who really helped. He was like an angel in my life. I was in the nightclub life, the Hollywood scene, flying around on private jets with billionaire poker players. Like I was like doing it. And then at 18, I meet this beautiful man who helped anchor me into wholesomeness and safety, and I'd never really known that before. So actually my journey with the masculine has been really beautiful, from the get-go, pretty much like 18 forward. And yeah, I got into Kundalini yoga. I went vegan, vegetarian. I was like, in this like kind of domesticated partnership and tending to plants and the earth and reconnecting with Gaia and reestablishing my relationship with psychedelics. And then at 20, I was like, I have no idea who I am in this relationship or who I am in general. So left the relationship, created a vision board for my life. I always like could feel my timeline. So I knew when it was time to pivot into the next iteration, the next octave. And yeah, and then I went on another big soul quest where I had my ego completely obliterated many times and came to understand and experience oneness in a very profound way. And all I wanted were like answers. And in my seeking for answers, I recognized that my biggest awakening is not my spiritual one, it's my human one. It's the full descent into my body, into my heart. And the journey of that was so profound. And after this, the profundity of that experience, like it all happened in sacred sisterhood, happened through my menstrual cycle, happened through earth magic. I was not on social media, so I didn't know about these trending things or the divine feminine. I like viscerally was taken through the experience of the blueprint. And then I got to then find the ways to articulate that and read, what I was experiencing. And in that whole, I guess, divine initiation, I met my beloved. And we met at a yoga ecstatic dance. He was there with another woman. He saw me across the room. He felt very drawn to me. I was in my full wild feminine. So this is the quote I want to share too, is like, I know it's kind of this cliche thing of when you're not looking and you're fully juiced up on yourself, that's when your beloved comes in. But like it's real. That's really true because you're vibrating and pulsating at your most optimal, like your truest frequency, right? And then from that space, like what is magnetized to you, like the unique flower that you are, that's, there's a congruence because it's real, it's authentic. So, yeah, him and I have been in union for 6 years. We actually took a year and a half apart to be in full sovereignty and to really understand who we are. And, we had to completely let our relationship die multiple times, and it was excruciatingly initiatory. And, the beauty of union, I actually was reading a book called Sacred Union before we got together, is that it's the concept that we are infinite, and being in a union and in a container it's a container for the continual revelation of the infinity of your soul with one another. There's
Mm.
no hiding. It's the sharpest mirror possible. And so in our union, he was able to mirror and initiate me into my dharma in a lot of ways. And I was able to initiate him into his heart and his embodiment and integrity in a lot of ways. And so we've just continually been spiraling in that. And there's so much here, but I'm just going to wrap it up with when COVID hit, was on a hike and Mama Earth, Goddess, was like, it's time. I just heard it so clear. Everyone was in fear. Everyone was panicking. Everyone was sanitizing everything. And I'm just like, okay, straight to the earth. And it was just the loudest, most subtle message of it's time. And I had been in hypnotherapy college. So I had the tools and the resources and also all of my experience thus far. And I was 21, and it was like, oh, it's time to serve. Like everyone's in fear and I'm in bliss. And so I'm going to serve from this space. I'm going to serve. I'm going to just share everything I know. I'm going to be messy with it. I'm going to do this all from the comfort of my bedroom and I'm going to put myself out there even when it's scary. And I'm just going to I'm just going to offer whatever I can and trust that God's going to bring me those that I'm best equipped to serve at this time. And so from the comfort of my bedroom, I started my private practice. I started doing biweekly moon circles for women and creating community and really stepping into my leadership. And yeah, now it's just taken on a life of its own. And I keep pulsing with the sentience of the trajectory of it.
Hmm. I love those moments when you're told what the fuck to do. When like Earth or Cosmos is just gonna dominate you and be like, this is what is happening, and your ego just has to step aside and be like, okay, I will do that. And it's a magical moment of union with the divine, union
Mhm.
with source, union with earth. So it's so
Mhm.
relevant to this union conversation that we're having.
Mhm.
And like you said about your beloved reflecting to you, you're a Dharma doula. It is so similar. You said the way that you were showing up with your mission first, it was like messy and you were just showing up anyway. And I kind of feel like I'm at that stage now in union where I'm like, I'm aware of my shit. I'm aware of my wounds. I'm aware of my abandonment wound getting in the way because my dad left when I was 1 year old and I've never met him since. I've never had a stable man in my life. And now I'm married to an extremely stable, consistent, devoted, deeply loving man. And sometimes I can't receive his love
Yeah. Yeah.
because my story and my trauma is so convinced that there's no way that this could be real. But I hear that story now and I'm showing up to co regulate and self regulate, but it's messy. And
Mhm.
sometimes I fuck it up. And sometimes it's not elegant. But you have to do these things and fall on your fucking face in relationship or not, in business or not. It's all the same union lessons. So thank you for giving us all permission to just be a bit messy, but still be in devotion to it, devotion to love, devotion to mission. And yeah, that was a really beautiful share. Thanks for going there with us. I'm going to go somewhere really deep now as well. Just like second question, we're going all the way in.
Let's go.
Talking of mission and how it all began. I've heard you mention in your amazing podcast, which I'll link in the show notes for everyone, that you've experienced yourself like past life memories of being a sexual priestess. And
Mhm.
so have I, but I've never spoken to anyone else that deeply has experienced that. So I'm so excited to have you here. I've experienced it a few times during Kundalini activation. That's what my partner facilitates, Kundalini activation. So when he's held me in that practice, the Kundalini energy has shown me, I don't know. I'm assuming it's a past life of myself, but it could be showing me something completely different. And I've never actually spoken about it on the podcast, but the vision that I had was me dropping to my knees in the pouring down rain after all of my sisters in the temple behind me had been murdered for being sexual mystic women, for practicing witchery, for practicing sex magic, for being woman devoted to temple arts and having men come to them. And it was kind of like me surviving the death of the temple. And I remember fighting. I remember like my fists, and in the Kundalini experience my fists were like balled up and I was ready to fight. And then the Kundalini energy was like, just die. And it just told me to die. And it was like, you can just die. Let yourself
Mm.
die. Let yourself die 1,000 times to become who you're really meant to be. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Mm.
And it was this
Mhm.
deep vision in this temple. So I'd love to hear if you feel called to share with us.
Mhm.
Who is the sexual priestess and what was your experience or your belief of being her in a previous lifetime?
Firstly, thank you for sharing such a deep vision and experience. That's like I got teary eyed hearing that because there, the there I say like part of what we're doing here in this feminine movement is the resurrection of temple consciousness. And, our temple can be our room. This is my temple. When we moved into our current home, I said, I need my temple. That's the one thing that's a non-negotiable. So it's like my altar's here. I've got my different spaces to portal because as a temple priestess, we are multidimensionally traveling to then bring it through in this now timeline, right? So part of it is, I mean, my experience with it was I've always been very, very connected to my sexuality and my Shakti. And it's like such a force that I can embody and bring through me that when I was younger, I didn't know how to wield it responsibly. I could turn it on. I remember my mom saw me at this event where it was like I had manifested being in an experience where it was my favorite show that I was absolutely obsessed with. I had the autograph of one of the men above my bed. I'm literally in the scene of the show. They're all dressed in character. It's at a fundraiser at my godfather's restaurant that I worked at when I was 16, like to a T manifestation. My life has been kind of a series of this. And this is when I started learning about frequency and manifestation. However, I had an agenda, which was I had a crush on one of the men.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned my energy on, and my mom said she watched it and she was like, Zoe, your promiscuous energy was literally like drenching the room. And I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, I know, but I didn't know other people knew. So, and then, she's my mom. I wound up having a really crazy experience after that experience because of my energy. So at a very young age, I was very, very tapped into sexual magnetism, Shakti, literally like pulsating it out, and I could turn it on. However, it wasn't coming from my heart.
Mm.
So something that I teach women is there's a huge difference between flirting, even with life, right? From your heart versus from your womb and your sacral, right? And there's a shadow and there's a light side to when we are dropped into that space, right? That pussy power. And we're not really taught how to tune into that. So I always say for most sex priestesses that are incarnate, it's like looking back in retrospect at the blueprint in the foundation, especially like any trauma around our sexuality, any ways we were perceived in our sexuality. So I had a huge reputation of being a whore throughout high school, like before I even had sex, right? Because of the energy I carried, because of the way that I carried myself. Um, and so I just kind of like submitted to that label. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna run with this. Like, so deeply promiscuous, very like I had a big appetite for sexual experiences, and I got myself into a lot of trouble. There was a lot of trauma. Like found out some of my guy friends like raped me when I was on substances, and all of that was kind of normalized, right? Because I was just so exposed and I had exposed myself. And then over time and over my like process of my spiritual awakening, my homecoming to truth and soul, it was like I realized that sexuality is such an intrinsic part of my blueprint. And then I woke up to Mary Magdalene. She actually started coming to me through the essence of the rose, through synchronicities. I always say like everything is now I say divine provision. God is providing us every step of the way on our journey through other people's mouths, through repetitive synchronicity, right? Through all these things. So I started becoming really attuned to the ways in which God and Goddess were speaking to me. And so I started to just like really tune in, and that I call it our divine curriculum. It's happening all the time. Some of us drop into it earlier or later. It doesn't matter. It's always divinely orchestrated. But I've always been in this union with the divine. And during lockdown, when I was initiating into like deep Dharma, I was in a lot of intuitive sexual practices with myself in my temple space. and learning how to channel energy and remembering the times that I was initiated into the womb arts, into the arts of sexuality, and having all these visions and channeling like courses, channeling frequencies. Was channeling a lot of rose gold energy, and then
Mm.
I launched a course called Rose Gold Alchemy, which was all about the bitch, the witch, and the whore wounds. And then I went to Egypt and found out that the rose gold frequency is a Hathorian frequency.
Mm.
Hathor is like a mother goddess in Egypt who, women would, in devotional offering to her, be in like their Shakti and their sexuality, offering these like erotic dances, adoring and adorning themselves in the mirror and seeing the goddess through themselves. And the rose is also very indicative of this Hathorian frequency, this Egyptian frequency, very connected to Mary Magdalene. So all these codes and pieces started dropping in. And it's like, oh, wow, I've been called a whore my whole life. Even the whole etymology of whore is like cave. It's like the cavernous, creational potency, right? And so it started all like landing and dropping in. And what else wants to be shared here? Sexuality. I mean, there's a beautiful book. I reference this in a lot of podcasts I'm on, called Sacred Sexuality by Dr. George Feuerstein or something. And he goes into the uh, temple spaces that we used to gather in as women, as sex priestesses, and that ultimately it was all about the refinement of our vessel and our womb space to be a conduit, a vessel for divinity, for the goddess to flow through and make love with God, right, through the masculine form. But also, yoni being Sanskrit for sacred space, right? How are we in relationship to that sacred space? Being
Mm.
the portal for the wand of light, which is his lingam, to literally create life. If we look at the Ankh, it's the symbol of eternal life, but it's also like the lingam, right? It's like a phallic symbol with this like 0 point of the yoni. It's like it's creation. So in these temples, the women would be in sisterhood, right? There's a big revival and resurrection of sisterhood in conjunction with temple consciousness. And the sisters would be in these initiatory temple arts, and they would be connecting with their Shakti. They would be refining. They'd be, they were initiates of this lineage. And if a man wanted to come and experience the goddess through one of these initiates, it was said that he would come and he would bring riches, he would bring gold, sometimes bring whatever he had to experience this energy, this sacred energy exchange. And then if he was accepted, if he was, if they felt called to bring him into this sacred space, he would come in and the women would basically like dance around him, putting him into this hypnotic state. So then he's kind of going into this more divine space. And as he's being hypnotized, like tickled with feathers, and they're like running around and, caressing him, maybe like dancing with roses. That's how I like to see it. And then he would open his eyes and he would choose a woman to go and consummate with and go and
Mm.
experience the goddess through. And when he chooses the woman, all the other women would go and adorn her and beautify her and put oils on her. And then she would go into, I guess you could say, like the bridal chamber or the temple chamber, where she would then be the conduit for the transmission of that energy.
Mm.
And so that also touches on the sisterhood piece of women being there to be in devotion together. It was bigger than themselves.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for bringing back the ancient. Thank you for allowing us all to fucking remember what was. And I also just want to say, before we get deep into the union codes and the sexual devotion codes, I'm sorry to everyone that we're using really heterosexual language today. Like, please relabel it. Please rewrite it however you need to suit whoever you make love to, but we're speaking kind of, I guess, to a masculine feminine, just because that's what Zoe and I are both living right now and embodying right now. So I can speak for me that I can only speak from that point because I don't make love to women, but please convert it as you need to. And something I find when talking about this, like, erotic devotion, and I recently did an episode on cock worship and it went wild. Like, women obviously crave this, they crave that level of erotic devotion. Many women feel the sex priestess within them that knows they're carrying these codes of the divine, the wild, the witchy, the ancient. We feel our power as women. However, many of these women have, for their whole life, completely prioritized the needs and the pleasure of their masculine counterpart, of their masculine lover. They've people pleased in the bedroom. They've not known their own bodies, not been in union with their pussy. And so they don't know what she needs. And because of our society and the way that we're not exposed to sacred sex, we're shown that, you know, we should just get into it and get what we need in 10 minutes and everyone's satisfied. But the reality is that many women are leaving the bedroom unsatisfied. Many women are focusing on his pleasure and forgetting their own. So I know that women deeply crave sacred sex, deeper intimacy, like presence, and this soul merging union in the bedroom. Like, in fact, my partner and I experienced this. You know, we have weekly temple nights and we usually experience some kind of transcendent state of sex there. But when we finished making love a few days ago, he said he was really emotional and he said, I wish all couples could have this. I deeply wish all couples could feel what we can feel. And I was like, they can. I think they can. They just don't know how to get there. So, to all the women that have been like craving this level of sacred sex, that have been craving this union in the bedroom, but have been like, well, why the fuck should I show up for a man like that? Why the fuck should I worship him and like tickle him with feathers and dance around him and give him my radiance when all men have done is left me unsatisfied? Like, what can we say to that woman about cultivating more worship for herself and her lover in the bedroom?
So there's so many pieces to this because sex is the expression of the union beyond the bedroom. It's the conversation that solidifies and amplifies and works with the energetics that are happening in the relationship itself. So it's, you know, and then it also is a place to like repolarize. So it's a beautiful place to get back into that rhythm of polarity. However, like there are a few fundamental things that have to be in place, I would say, which is the trust and safety piece. Right. And then there's so many different dynamics. So I find that for women who have a man in their lives, and again, yes, these can be gender fluid, right? Just like you said, it's, you know, applicable in your own dynamic because one person typically is the more masculine energy and one's the more feminine energy. If you look at any dynamic between lovers. So it's like if he is providing, if he is protecting, if he is a good man, if you love and respect him, right? And if you don't love and respect your man, that's your work. Look at why you don't love and respect the man that you are choosing to be with, right? Because that's a you thing. I'm just gonna say it, right? So it's, you know, because the highest aphrodisiac for the masculine heart is respect. And the highest aphrodisiac for the feminine heart is cherishment and chivalry, right? And like knowing that he is showing up. And if he is showing up, if he is doing his best to be a good man for you, for the union, if he is protecting and providing, then yeah, your devotion, your worship is is like sustenance for the union, right? Because both the masculine and the feminine are playing their roles in the ecosystem of the union. I always say it's him, it's her, it's the union itself, the sentience, the entity of the union itself, and then it's God,
Mm.
right? So it's like the whole ecosystem, the holistic perspective of it. If he is doing his best to be that leader and that pillar for your union, if he is showing up for you, then to offer him your, my partner said this the other day, my fiance, your rapturous surrender is the greatest gift. And I'll
Mm.
just give some example, like personal story too, because I just went through a huge initiation with this, because as we do is we're like devoted to this path. So, I became so devoted to my dharma, to my mission, subtly falling into this kind of hyper masculinized version of myself because there's so much I want to bring through, have all these visions that I wasn't in my deep, deep feeling, my deep,
Mm.
deep, deep heart where I live. That's like my like sweet spot of self, the mushy, ushy, gushy, like gooey, 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 please, you know, and I wasn't there. And he could feel that, right? Again, the union is a mirror. If we're on this evolutionary, revolutionary path of anchoring heaven on earth, of love, of the union being a prayer for that, there's gonna be times where we fall into our ego and we're gonna get humbled by our union and by love. So, he shared your rapturous surrender is the greatest gift. And he was really craving that because I was so in my dharma. And everything that's been happening in my life is mirroring the curriculum for my membership for women called the vessel, being a
Mm.
vessel for different pieces every month. And I have the whole curriculum for the entire year planned out. And I didn't realize to the depth and degree that that would be my sole curriculum as I'm transmitting to all the women in the space. The first month was all about devotion to Dharma, and I was in it. And so he goes, babe, I can't feel your heart. And so, one of the biggest pieces and key codes to transcendental sex is to be in your heart as the woman, because then you are pulsing with the subtleties of the dynamic and of life itself. And you are bringing that aliveness into the union, which inspires his penetration to take you deeper than you could ever take yourself, right? It's a co creational dance, it's a co creational, efforted experience between the polarities. So I could feel that initiation was afoot. I'm like, okay, God, I'm here for it. I have no idea what this iteration of surrender is, but I'm surrendering to the surrender, and just like take me. And so, in the process of our conversing about the depolarization in our relationship, because when I'm hyper masculinized, I'm trying to take the reins, I'm micromanaging even in subtle ways, he's emasculated. And then I'm not turned on, because I can't feel his frame, right? But I'm also at cause of that in ways, right? Of course, we're both in the dance. However, I can only take responsibility for myself. So I recognized, all right, I'm in this pattern. I can't logic my way back into my heart and back into my deep, deep feminine. There's a descent afoot. Again, no idea what it looks like. I'm here for it. And so the conversation came up where he's like, babe, what can I do to help you surrender back into your feminine? And I
Mm.
said, plan us a date, and I just completely like follow your lead in it, And that's such an easy way for couples to repolarize. Even if the date isn't fully to your desire, trusting him to make the plans and to be in his leadership, and knowing that your trust in his leadership and his planning inspires him to show up in higher and higher octaves of that, expression, not only in the relationship, but in the world, right? Your union is a space for him to practice and refine the way he's penetrating his mission. So I said, let's plan a date. And Valentine's Day was coming up. So he's like, okay, I'm going to plan our whole date. And so I just fully surrendered to his lead. I spent Valentine's Day was a Venus day. So I spent the day in like my devotional, like, heart kriya practices and loving on myself with a rose and just preparing myself and packing a whole suitcase of tantric Venusian, items like our heated massage buffer and velvet blankets and roses and like my sheepskin um and we get to the spot, and it's like I was in my head, I'm in my head and I'm like thinking about what it's going to be like, and all of a sudden like he takes me to this historic hotel in Austin that feels like old New York, and I feel like I'm in a 1920s like super classy movie. And my aphrodisiac, my feminine designs aphrodisiac is gentleman, like to be with a gentleman who has like class and chivalry. It's just my blueprint. And so he like really stepped into that in a way I've never actually experienced with him before. And I could feel this level of his masculinity kind of dropping in. And I was able to fully surrender to the experience. Then he takes me to get oysters because they're aphrodisiacs. And then we go to our hotel room. It's number 1212. And there was just such a divine orchestration in our polarization. And he really thought it out.
Mm.
So, as the feminine, I got to sit there over oysters and deeply hold him in my love and reflection and acknowledgement of his planning, of his leadership, fully being in my radiant aliveness, resting in his frame as I allow his consciousness to rest in my love and acknowledgement, which was he kept saying the biggest gift for him. And then, yeah, and then we like went back to the space. He's a professional photographer. So we started doing all these photo shoots of me, which allowed me to get into my feminine even more. So it was this slow process of repolarization. However, and then we had like all this tantric sex all night, but it still wasn't fully dropped into the degree of transcendental, earth shattering sex magic, heart magic, union magic that him and I are coded with together. And so I'm like, okay, there's a little bit more to this initiation, and I'm here for it. So the day after Valentine's Day, we had planned to go to a devotion as revolution workshop in Austin that a dear friend was doing with some other big thought leaders out here. And being there was such a remembrance of so many union codes that I used to teach on, I used to be in the practice of before I let my dharma kind of sway me from that template. Again, they're supposed to be in union with each other. Um, and after that devotion as revolution workshop, I went home and I ate a chocolate cookie. And I think that there was like salmonella or something, but I fell into like being violently ill for like
Oh.
2 days, purging and like being thawed out, rawed out. And as I'm purging all of the layers, all of the stories, all of the distortion, like everything standing in the way of the omnipotence of love itself, and anything blocking my ability to fully calibrate to that as a woman devoted to this path. And God basically had me in bed for 4 days where there was no room to be distracted. Could not do anything but descend deeper into my body to feel all the layers of my body, myself, life in our union. And in that space, I fully took my hands off the wheel. Like fully surrendered dharma, fully surrendered everything. And that fourth day, as I'm in bed, resensitizing to everything, to all the subtleties, money started pouring into my bank account from different accounts. You reached out to me on Instagram and you're like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? I just found you on Instagram. And yeah, and there were a couple other opportunities. A woman reached out and was like, I would love to be in one-on-one mentorship with you. I feel your embodiment, your devotion, your connection to Magdalene. And like all these things were able to fully magnetize and find me because I fully broke open to my heart and to love. And then it was raining that day, which felt kind of prophetic. And so I went outside barefoot, singing and dancing and letting it like rewild me and get my hair all curly and epic. And I just felt so alive, so wild, so connected to my heart. I spent the whole day basically crying crying at love, crying at our union, feeling the sentience of our union. The soundtrack of like our love was basically playing on Alexa. It was like such, and I call it mythic union. And the only way to experience the mythicness of that union is to fully be in the heart and
Mm,
moving from this space, right? And to be in continual initiatory process of dissolving any barriers and layers that come up around love. And so to make love from that space, to have sex from that space, that's what I call earth shattering, transcendental, fucking full on unification of God and goddess, like the most alchemical, potent experience. And that is the frequency. My highest prayer is that that is the frequency that the babies come through. Our next
mm,
generation
mm.
of the new earth inhabitants incarnated, through that devotional union and love, where it's
Yeah.
like nothing standing in the way of that massive love, that mythic love, from fully unifying and allowing it to be, yeah, hot and sexy and, devotional and loving. And it's just all of it expressing itself through sexuality.
Mm. The
There's a lot
hope.
there.
Like having so many visuals also of like recent times where I've gone into this and I've said to my now husband, like, if there was going to be any time to make a baby, it was going to happen right then. Because like it was, like you said, when you feel your heart. But the thing is, right? Like I know for years in multiple unions that I kept my heart so armored and so protected. And also, I want to speak to, that polarity piece, which is so spoken about. I mean, me and the amazing woman that I live with just did a feminine magnetism workshop together today. We attended one and we've been like talking a lot and reflecting a lot about it. And we're like, but, you know, at the same time as we want to be open hearted and receiving and letting our man like lead and penetrate us with his love, we also want to show up and penetrate the space and like make a dinner or surprise him and initiate a date or like do something. And now we're like just questioning, is that magnetic? And I actually posted about this on my Instagram stories the other day when my man was out and he had planned us a whole 2 week trip around Spain. He did all the driving, he did all the planning. I have never been initiated into receiving to that level. And old me would have pushed that away because I was so terrified to be a burden. So, all that armor around my heart was from being so scared to be a burden that I couldn't receive. So, I'd be in that hyper independence, not able to receive my man's love, and then complaining because I wasn't experiencing sacred sex. But like I was the one causing that protection and that armor from my heart. So, now that my heart was open, he planned this whole 2 week trip, and I'd received it and like it was amazing to just lean back and fully trust him and his capacity, and he felt so powerful because of the amount of trust I had for him, and that was a gift. And then I was like, you know what? He's done so much the last 2 weeks. So when we got home, he went out surfing for a few hours, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna like put his favorite games out. We're going to play some board games together. We wanted a games night anyway, but I kind of made it special. So I put loads of blankets, candles, put the games out. I baked this whole like beautiful dinner for us. And someone I posted it on my stories and I was like, when was the last time you held him? When was the last time you created something artistic for your union? When was the last time you led him into his surrender? Because there's so much talk in the polarity space that we as women should never do that, because otherwise we'll push the masculine away or not be in that magnetism anymore of receiving. But I think there's a balance here that the men also want to be held. The men also go through a really fucking hard time. I know there's been times where my man has a terrible day at work and he just wants me to hold him. And in those times, I need to kind of not just be in my like feminine surrender and receiving. So, how can we hold both?
Mhm.
How can we lead
Mhm.
and not fuck up the polarity? Because that was the message I got on Instagram. She was like, but you setting up this date, surely that's going to screw with your whole polarity and the chemistry. Like you're now like leading and holding the space, you're in your masculine. But I don't think it's that black and white.
It's
So,
not.
yeah, perfect. Oh my gosh,
Mhm.
I really want to bring this conversation because
Mhm.
now a lot of women in my life are overthinking, oh no, am I too in my masculine? Because they're just giving to their man. So,
Mhm.
how can we be in our feminine magnetism whilst not also just giving nothing to our
Mhm.
lover, you know? How can we hold both? I'd love to know that.
Well, if you are naturally pulsing with your feminine and your feminine embodiment and you're feeling an intuition and moving from the gnosis of your own internal experience, reflecting externally, you will feel where you are to move with that current and show up in a certain way. So, going back to cock worship, going back to sacred sex, going back to rapturous surrender, our radiance, our aliveness, our juicy, like when we're juiced up on life and when we are like oozing with that, first of all, that is such a gift to his nervous system. He drinks that in, like that is, it's an energetic tonality and texture that he gets to bathe in. He gets to take
Mm.
refuge in that frequency and in our love, right? Versus the nagging, nitpicking, complaining, getting on his ass every time he doesn't put the toilet seat down, little things like that, right? So we'll use you as an example, your experience. So he planned this beautiful trip all around Spain. He fully took the lead on that. He gifted you the the container in the frame to fully surrender into your feminine, to be taken somewhere that you couldn't necessarily take yourself, to fully be in your embodiment, to experience the richness of that experience and to fully drink it in, which I'm sure made you, like it made you like giddy and you're like you're in your effervescence, you're in your femininity, which was such a gift to him. And it showed him that you respect and trust him enough to take the lead like that. So, how do we show up in co creational devotion, right? He's showing up, he's protecting, he's got you, he's leading. Okay, what, just like what you did, like what are the things that also like show him love? I guess we can say through their love language as well. You know that those are his favorite games. These are things that'll show him that he's loved. After the experience with my beloved on Valentine's Day, I was like, just, I'm pondering in my mind the way he shows up for our puppy. He's an amazing puppy daddy. Like, he's such a natural daddy. He, the way he takes care of things, like who he be, how he's evolved. And I'm like, oh, I need to get this out of my head and onto paper. So I just wrote him a whole love letter and put it on his desk for whenever he got back to his workstation to feel the kiss of my love, right? It's like we crown them with our love, and our love gets to express itself however feels natural and true for us as a devotional offering to Him. Another
Mm.
piece around, yes, cock worship. To go and worship his cock as if it is the most magnificent, stupendous wand of light that is literally penetrating our orifice, right? With this frequency of God. I call cock the rod to God.
Mm.
So if we're making love with the rod to God through our mouth, through our yoni, and we're pulsing with that divinity, tune into his nervous system and the way that he's experiencing that um that offering, and you can either feel him start to get harder, you can feel him pulse in your mouth or in your yoni, right? You can feel it. So it really is about feeling. And when you can bring him into that feeling space, when you can worship his cock, which is like its own sentience, right? And you know how it works. You know what turns it on. You know how to be attuned to it. You know how to like feel what it the moment is calling for through your sexuality, through your devotion. That is such a gift, right? That is when our sexuality really does get to be this gift. And then he's feeling lit up and invigorated, right? And then he goes and penetrates the world with that energy. And then he just wants to continue to protect, provide, cherish, right? It's a reciprocity loop of co-devotion. Like for my fiance's birthday, it's 222 right now. This is one of my biggest kinks is people's birthdays because I see birthdays
A birthday kink.
a birthday kink. I've always had it where like I love to make the people feel so fucking special on their birthday, like just showering with love, and for them to really feel the potency of their life force and the fact that they're here and they're celebrated for being here. And so his last birthday, he turned 40, and for months I was planning the prayer of his birthday. And we were at Burning Man and it was so epic. I mean, like, I could tell dirty details, but I was like, I know all his kinks. I know all the things that will make him feel really loved. And I spent months making, like, I hid all his gifts in these bags and it was epic. And we got this like huge cake in, and I edited this photo of him and I as a geriatric couple that we had dressed as for Halloween. I edited a little pug in his arms because that was what my guides told me was his birthday present. And now that's our little daughter. And a clapperboard for the movie, his feature film he wrote the script for, because it was it was a stamp. It was a prayer of a visual of like, here is your birthday. Here's your cake. Here's how we're going to deliver it to you. Here's the vision of your prayer. And we delivered it to him. We sat him down in a throne on a stage, deliver him this massive cake, which was a journey to get into Burning Man. We had someone MC the moment. Our friend Nate, Equanimous, is like DJing right behind us. And then I clear the stage and I'm in this like leopard one piece and I give him the most epic lap dance where I just was like tuned in as a vessel for the goddess. And, then he blows out his candles, give him the lap dance, and then the celebration happens. So it's like, as women, as sex priestesses, as channels of divinity, as devotees of love, how are we letting love and life move through us as an offering to him, knowing that there's like no higher gift in the world? And I always say, a man chooses the woman he can best serve, experience the goddess through. And a
Mm,
woman chooses the man she can best serve, feel, and experience God through.
mm,
God's provision, God's love, God's retemplatizing of our relationship with the masculine, right? And with receivership and with money. And, like something you also spoke into is how his devotion, his love, his showing up for you, parts of you, it was hard to receive. I've also experienced that in my union where it was like all I ever wanted was his devotion, his full devotion, his love, and then he showed up in that way, in a way that was honestly, it was a lot for my nervous system to calibrate to. And so
mm,
the code I want to share on that is we are retemplatizing our relationship with receivership and with the masculine through being loved by a good man. And every time our nervous system starts to contract in the face of that, it's like lovingly and patiently working with this new template of relational artistry, of union, not only for ourselves in calibrating to receive that magnitude of love, right? And to receive it
yeah.
and to know and to work on wherever we don't feel worthy of it, our father wounds, all of that, knowing that this relationship is a space to work all of that out. But we're also doing this for our entire matrilineal line. And we're doing this so that we're not holding that imprintation in our womb. So that when it comes time to receive the soul that we are here to birth, we're not encoding them with that blueprint. And so what's happening on the collective scale is a lot of women who are in this, we can say, rise of the divine feminine, right? Or this reclamation and this stepping in, this empowering, this rewilding. And for me, it took a while to drop into the code with the healing of the masculine.
Mm,
There was a lot of trigger around it. I would say, I mean, there's still like moments where I'm working through and massaging through that. And like you shared in the beginning, we will not fully rise in our highest octave of femininity without also bringing the masculine with us and working in tandem and unifying and harmonizing. That is the key to heaven and co-creating heaven on earth is that union. You know, so when we do come together in these holy, revolutionary, evolutionary, mythic unions, right? And when we've been coded for it, we are literally anchoring heaven on earth through all the iterations of that union. And something else I like to say is love is not linear. So, like I shared, Teddy and I have a very unconventional story where we were, I mean, our love was so powerful, so passionate, so transcendent, so otherworldly and mythic that our humans couldn't actually fully hold it. And we had so much to work through. However, even in our separation, the yearning was ineffable. Our hearts were always in telepathy, you know, and it mused so much of our dharma, our poetry, like, I mean, so much, you know, and then to come back together in union to co-create this entire new like timeline, right, has been so powerful, so initiatory. And so something that I like to say is like, yeah, if you're on this path of this mythic love and union, something that isn't talked about a lot is the fact that sometimes there is a separation, you know, and I don't think that has to be the case for everyone at all. I do think that there's like a select, there's like a sliver of union pairs that are maybe destined to go through that to refine their own union with source and self and dharma, right? To then come back together from wholeness. Because ultimately it's about being in wholeness and coming together to amplify that, right? In a way that you couldn't do just on your own.
Mm, thank you. Thank you for bringing that around your journey to the love you're in right now. And yeah, that's the reality of this divine union that most people are craving. The reality is that it's going to fucking mirror to you every single part of you that you do not love. And you either have the choice to run as fast as you can and push that person away because it's too painful to do the work, to face your armor and to face your wounds. So you push them the fuck away from you as far as you can and you run, or you let their love show you where you're not loving yourself and you do the fucking hard, deep work to know, okay, where is this come from? Where is this like anti-union code? Or where is this space where I have inherited a belief that love from a man is not safe? That's been my journey, like growing up with a long line of single mums. My sister was a single mom. My mum was a single mom. My grandma lost her husband. She never met her dad. There has not been a stable man in my bloodline for centuries. And I truly feel I have been gifted the opportunity to be the chain breaker, to remember union, to resurrect union from the ashes of a long line of women who hate men, who taught me to hate men, who taught me that men cannot love. And like, it's fucking hard because when a man loves you, I couldn't handle it for years. I've been engaged 3 times and
Mm-hmm.
I left
Mm-hmm.
all of those relationships. I mean, thankfully, it all led me to exactly where I need to be now to be married to the man of my dreams. But I couldn't receive their love ever because I had so much armor around my heart that told me this isn't okay. Like, and I could never drop into that receiving, and I could never believe or trust union. And the reality of union is that it's painful. It's painful because you have to face all of the shit.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. Well, I just want to honor you for that, for you know, because it is this, I always say it's the staying power, right? And the more you learn to stay with yourself and the discomfort that comes up when you do this inner work, the more you can stay with what comes up in a union being your greatest, highest spiritual teacher, right?
Mm.
Because it's not going to be easy, right? All the time. It's like everything. There's the expansion and the contraction, right? And if we're devoted to truth and devoted to really looking at ourselves and really becoming the highest version of ourselves, then that's what this initiation is all about. And when you shared that, yeah, it's like I do see a lot of people that run from true love, it's heartbreaking. However, right? Every soul has its own curriculum and we're all learning, right? But this
Mm.
code around healing with the masculine, I feel, is the most prevalent in the feminine collective field right now. And whatever journey we need to go through to get to that space is exactly what's going to create us into the woman that can hold it and that can shift it. It's like fear is fuck everything and run or face everything and rise, right? And that is so applicable to union. And, it mirrors back all the places where we haven't felt worthy, where we don't feel like we deserve this love and we self-sabotage and we try to talk ourselves out of it, and there was something wanting to come through around that. Oh, I want to share that the Queen's Code for women who are listening to this and they're like, "Oh God, this is still so deeply triggering, and I cannot really like tune in with this code." The Queen's Code by Alison Armstrong is a beautiful place to start. And I'll
Mm.
say, like, I read that book maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and reading it was beautiful, and I couldn't really grasp it.
Mm.
And I picked it up the other night because I just love diving into this and I'm here for all the layers. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, wow, I get it. I totally get it. And I'm continuing to get it. And it's a process. It's like yoga. You don't get on the mat once, right? You continue to get on the mat and meet these postures and meet yourself and deepen your breath. And that's the same with sex, right? Sacred sexuality and being able to experience this transcendental sex. It's like, where is my breath in this experience, in this
Mm.
conversation between our souls through our bodies? Are there stories? Am I deeply in this moment? Am I pulsing with my aliveness, right? Because there's so many ways to really deeply polarize in sex in a way that's both soulful and like, I guess, dare I say, lustful, right? Or you get to allow your sexuality to fully animate your body and it becomes a dance between the two of you, a dance of alchemy where you can like, okay, where am I not softened? Where am I not breathing deeper? Where am I not feeling him? Because if I'm not feeling him, I'm probably not feeling life. So
Mm.
feel,
Mm.
and if I'm not receiving him, I'm probably not receiving life, right? And I'm not receiving provision. I'm not receiving the things that are going to fortify me. So it's like you utilizing sexuality as an alchemical space, as a yogic practice to receive him deeper, to soften, to feel the ways in which you soften into your own rapture and aliveness. He starts to come and penetrate and starts to attune to your energetic fabric. And it becomes an entire energetic sequence and dance where it's not just the act of penetration, right? It's a whole like embodied experience of pulsation and magnetism in true pleasure.
Mm. Oh, what fucking epic homework. Thank you, Zoe. Everyone practice receiving in, in the bedroom. So let's get on to some tangible tips for. I'd love to ask you, without contorting ourselves, without trying to force feminine energy, without trying to tick any spiritual boxes, how can we drop into our truth of having this open heart, opening into receptivity, allowing that feminine energy to flow through us so that we can become this magnet for this devotional union that we've been talking about? What can women do to really allow that energy to come?
Mhm. Well, you just said it. it's allowing, right? So you can't force femininity. You also can't think your way into it. You cannot do it from logic. It is about the prioritization of, I say, you want to connect with your feminine energy, prioritize the things that nourish it.
Mm,
What allows you to feel alive and in your body, because that's ultimately what femininity is. It's you moving from the inside out. It's you feeling life so deeply that it's just moving through you. Creational energy is just oozing out of you, right? Your awe and enchantment with life and divinity in everything is just oozing this infectious radiance out of you. And again, that is such nourishment for the masculine, such nourishment for the world, because you are literally oozing love. You're moving from love. So, tangible ways to prioritize that. One thing, first thing in the morning, before your mind tries to take the reins, before checking Instagram, placing one hand on the heart, one hand on your womb or your pussy, and just breathing in and just feeling,
mm,
connecting with sensation, maybe even taking off all your clothes and rolling around in bed naked and feeling the sheets on your skin, just attuning to sensation.
mm,
And, when you connect with your heart, just asking, like, how does love wish to move through me today?
mm,
What is the most authentic expression of my essence today? And one way that I love to pulse with this on a day to day basis that's very ethereal and feminine, but kind of gives structure to flow, is syncing with the planetary ruling power of each day. And I have a whole course, a little like a self paced immersion on this that was a live experience at one point called Cosmic Rebel. And it's all about syncing with the planetary ruling power. I live by this codex. And so I channeled a lot of juice into it. But it's like, okay, yesterday was Tuesday. That's ruled by Mars. So me knowing that it's ruled by Mars, the planet of, like the warrior, the trailblazer, it's got more of this masculine tonality to it. I'm always going to be operating from my feminine, but I want to go and like play in my masculine too. So my fiance just got an ice bath. I woke up and I'm like, I'm doing the ice bath. And it was so windy yesterday in Austin. Like trees were knocking over, power outages happened. And I was like,
oh.
I'm going to get in that ice bath. And I got in. I sat there for 3 minutes and I get out and I do like my giddy little dance, but I felt so in my body. And then I put my feet on the earth and the sun on my skin. It's another huge code. Resource with the organic world instead of outsourcing in the material, instead of writing all these to dos. Go sit in the sun, drink the sun in. I say that the penetration from solar energy is such an erotic charge for the feminine. So
Mm,
if you can feel and drink the sun in through your skin, and my favorite practice for this is drinking cacao. Again, setting intentions with the cacao, right? Being really intentional, feeling the cacao moving through you or whatever morning drink you have. Commune before you consume.
mm.
And then listening to music, right? Because music helps activate movement and Shakti. So I love sensual music or like dirty bass music, and then that'll start activating me. I'll be in the sun receiving downloads and feeling my feminine. And then I'm juiced up for the day. Because it's like, it's feeling. So yesterday was Mars Day, did that, went to the gym with my fiance. I've never been a gym girly, but I've got goals. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go with him. He kind of personal trains me, right? And again, all of these things are practices. Like for me to allow him to tell me how to work out. I used to go with him to the gym, and if he would tell me how to do something, I would get so pissed off and my ego would be so like righteous. And now it's like, yeah, baby, tell me what you do. I get so turned on. I was so turned on at the gym yesterday watching him working out, and he got turned on watching me watching him work out turned on. It was
Fuck
so
yeah.
hot. So it's like these little ways that we can like flirt with life, and have it work for our feminine design, because each woman has her own feminine design. So it's like
Mm,
testing and trying what feels good to you. One of the surefire way to get into your femininity is to dance And to not do it to perform. Again, same with sex. There's no performing. It's really feeling it from the inside out
Yeah.
and working with energetics.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving those as much as we can, not like put femininity into a routine or a structure. Like you said, it's a felt experience. And I always say to people on like so I run my signature program Wet and Worthy Woman, and I'm running it in person right now with 10 women. And when we get to reclaiming the slut week, the sacred slut week, I'm like, the slut is not an aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
She is a frequency.
Mm-hmm.
She is felt in the body. Like, and on the slut week I teach tantric like lap dance because I am actually a dancer, so
Yay.
it's really fun for me to take the choreography away and to be like, what feels delicious
Mm-hmm.
right now? And it's not going to be what you've been told is a hot, sexy dance move, but what feels
Mm-hmm.
delicious. And that might be rolling around on the floor and crying, but that's what your slut wants to do today. So let her. And it's super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a really yummy final question for you. I could talk for hours on this. There's been so many avenues that we didn't get to go to, so I might just have to rope you in for another conversation in the future. But I would love to know, how can we all love better? Maybe just speaking to the woman on this one, because most of my listeners are going to be pussy bodied. How can we love better?
Mm. Oh,
Mm,
I have chills everywhere. So, again, it really comes back to that devotion to feeling, the devotion to heart, right? Two of my favorite questions when returning to love, which I I would say should be a daily practice for the devotional woman, is to sit at the altar and to sit and be the student of love every single day.
mm,
So the two questions are, what is love teaching me right now?
mm,
And what would love do? So, when faced with a situation that maybe doesn't feel that loving in your system, or you don't feel that loving toward it, or whatever it is, it's okay. This is the key. Be so loving with yourself in your process of tending to your curriculum. So, it is that self love, loving the parts of yourself that you don't like, that you find undesirable, repulsive, icky, whatever it is, the parts of you that judge other women, the parts of you that judge your man, the parts of you that judge yourself, the parts of you that are not operating from love, right?
mm,
Just know that those parts of you are calling for more love, not less. And when you can really apply that and be the detective of that and see everything as data for your expansion into love, right? Everything is here to help you grow your capacity, expand your capacity to give and receive love. If you can see everything as the data for that curriculum, that core curriculum, and you can be the devoted student of that, that is, I mean, I don't know how tangible that is, but love really is a frequency. And, as Marianne Williamson says, everything that is not love is a mass hallucination.
mm,
So, again, like, being in relationship, being in union is such a potent place to exercise that and to exorcise everything that's not love. And the most powerful way to do this is through movement, is through breath, is through tuning into the moment, taking the moment as your lover and going, what is this moment asking of me? Yes, maybe it's having a temper tantrum. Maybe it's like ugly crying on the floor. Maybe it's channeling some ancient fucking sounds through me that sound like an old man from like another part of the world, right? How can I be a vessel for love? How does love want to live me? And again, it's not about logicking it or thinking about it. It's about
Mm.
deeply feeling, and a beautiful way to sensitize yourself to feeling is tune in to the sensations in your body. And if your mind keeps trying to rope you out of it, deepen your breath, put your feet on the earth. My favorite mantra for really staying with the body is so simple. It's just I am staying.
Mm.
That mantra has saved my life. It was gifted to me through an Indian doctor medium who like really helped midwife me into my heart awakening and what I call my divine feminine Christ awakening. Those three words. If your mind's trying to hijack you, if you feel like you've really like you've lost your pulse on love, put your feet on the earth. Declare, I am staying. I am staying with my body. I am staying with this moment. I am staying with the initiation until I'm back in that space of feeling and heart.
Mm. Ah, that is such potent advice for when these triggers come up, because they're the moments where we really don't want to be devoted to love and where we really want to choose our ego and our mind and we really want to choose fear and armor. So, yeah, wow. Thank you for those deep reflections. And yeah, would you,
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
really quickly, just know that those things are going to come up. The ego's main job is homeostasis and protecting you. So, again, there are going to be times where you quote unquote fuck it up. You're
Mm,
not the most loving. It's not about being perfect. It's about continually coming back to the heart and alchemizing the density and the data again and again and again through the heart. I call this the divine witch archetype. She alchemizes everything back into love, no matter what the situation, no matter how big the rupture. She knows
mm,
that there's a pearl in the repair through the alchemy that can only happen with love. And just going back really quickly to the sacred slut, which I will teach on as the holy whore. It's the same archetype, but the acronym I channeled for whore is wellspring of healing, orgasmic, regenerative energy.
mm.
So it's just like what you said. It's like maybe then throwing a tantrum on the floor. It's like, how does the regenerative energy of my Shakti, of my sexuality, which is creational power at its optimal, want to move through me in this moment to help me be in my fullest aliveness? Right. And
Mm.
that's femininity in a nutshell. It is your radiant aliveness and your like full immersion in your body, right? Your spirit is fully in your body, experiencing the richness and lovership with life.
Oh. I have one actually cheeky final thing to ask just on that really sneaky question to go
Sure.
in there. If you were experiencing a big trigger or a trigger of any kind with your lover and you could feel like, oh my God, my heart's closing. I want to fight this. Like, I want to fight him. And would you take yourself away to do those embodiment practices? Would you be like, I'm going to take some space? And what would you say to your partner in that moment? Or do you find that you stick it out and you stay and you bring it to the relationship to alchemize? Because this is my current challenge. I'm like,
Mhm.
moving away and self-regulating, and then I'm trying to come back and co-regulate once I've like
Mhm.
diffused within myself the
Mhm.
situation, usually with some breath. If I need to beat the mattress, I do. But like, yeah, what would you recommend in that moment where you don't want to choose love, where you don't want to be devoted to love? How do you alchemize that with him
Mhm.
or on your own or in the ways that you just told us?
It depends on the moment,
Mm,
and your calibration to what feels like your truth in a moment. If you feel that it's going to escalate further, if you stay and try to co regulate, and it's just, it's getting to a point where neither one of you is hearing each other and it's just the triggers are getting way too heightened. It's like, okay, what is my truth in this moment? Knowing that love is going to follow that current of truth.
mm,
And so sometimes, yeah, it is going and regulating with yourself. And then I would say always coming back to process it together.
mm,
and then sometimes it's even like you're feeling that in the moment. You're feeling like so heated and you're just, you're wanting to close and you speak to it. Like,
Mm.
hey, baby, I'm feeling really activated right now. I'm feeling really like I'm just feeling anger. I'm feeling so much disconnection. Like, it's kind of speaking to that. And it's like, okay, something my partner and I talk about a lot is like, how can we be solution oriented? So it's like, okay, I'm feeling these things and it's my truth. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. And I'm not going to try to be all feminine about it. It's like, this is my truth. And that is femininity. It's like moving from your truest, aliveness in moment to moment. And also, yeah, like, how can we deliver this with love? Right. And it's not going
Mm.
to be, it's going to be messy. It's going to be messy. We're going to continue to refine um, ex- the way that we navigate rupture, because rupture is inevitably going to come up, especially if you've chosen this person to be your life partner. Rupture is kind of part of the deal. But I get it's about the way that you repair. So it's focusing, yeah, in those moments, how are we refining the art of repair in our relationship?
Mm.
And again, it's like, it's being really loving with yourself when you don't navigate it perfectly. It's like, how can I love myself in this process? And how can I take the data of that and assimilate it so that next time it's a little bit better? So we have the tools to navigate this when it comes up. I hope that answered the question because that's such a layered dynamic between couples.
Yeah, yeah, it did. Thank you. We've learned so many tools from you today. And yeah, if there's anything that I've noticed in my union for being a magnet to the most sacred level of love, it is that it's just choosing love at
Mhm.
every moment when fear wants to win, trying to choose love and choosing love to love our man and not to criticize him, to take him down, to control him. It's like choosing love all the time. So thank you for sharing your teachings on that with us today. It's been such a fucking honor to have you here. Where can we find you? Where do you want to invite people into? Where can the community get involved with your amazing work?
Thanks for having me on, babe. Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Zoe Dane, ZoeDane. I also have a new monthly membership called The Vessel for women devoted to living as love in business, relationship, everything we've been talking about. And then, yeah, I have an older masterclass, but I just launched it publicly called Feminine Magnetism, actually. So if you go on my website, zoedanecoaching.com, you can see all my offers and then like my mentorship options as well. It's like probably that's my highest package is one-on-one mentorship. And then my podcast, The Better It Gets podcast, you can find on Spotify.
Amazing. I will
Yeah.
leave all the links to Zoe's work in the show notes because she is fucking incredible. And also, I just watched the lap dance you gave, a little snippet of it on your Instagram, the lap dance you gave to your beloved on his birthday. And I highly recommend everyone go and just check out Zoe's embodiment because it's fucking fire. So thank you
Oh.
so much for being with us today, love. It's been a deep honor. And yeah, thank you for sharing these codes.
Thank you for having me on. This is such an important piece to be anchoring in the collective right now because, again, it's not just about, I mean, it's about our whole lineage. It's about the generations to come. It's about healing the fabric of humanity.
Fuck yeah. Let's choose
Yeah.
love, everyone.
Yes.
Ay.